you got to think about Volk's legacy. Why will it read 2 Lopes fights in a row at the end of his career? You got to think about fresh matchups for him here. Something new. An undefeated guy in Murphy. An undefeated Dagestani in Evloev that has a win over Lopes. That has a win over Alger.
Beat him, you know. Mosvald and, Murphy, I think, on paper are probably more deserving of that title shot. But, we don't call the shots. That's up to the UFC. And they've given us Diego. So, that's the card they've given us, and that's the one we've got to play.
UFC matchmakers have been on the list since Dana White announced some unexpected fights for the first Paramount UFC card. Dana announced the matchups for UFC 324 and 325, but the fans and even pros completely disliked his matchmaking. The fans are confused about how Diego Lopes can get a second title shot within a year when fighters like Movsar Evloev and Lerone Murphy are waiting in line with an undefeated record.
1 week later, we have Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes. UFC 325 from Sydney, Australia. Volk versus Diego. There's a bunch of other fights on there. I'll tell you later.
Meanwhile, even the champ Alexander Volkanovski was shocked and admitted that he also believes Movsar Evloev and Lerone Murphy are more deserving of the title shot, but says the UFC chooses to go with Diego Lopes instead. He feels Movsar and Lerone have earned it more, yet he understands the promotion wants an exciting matchup and thinks the fans are still in for a great fight when he faces Lopes.
There was a bit of work involved. Obviously, we all know that I wanted to fight earlier. I wanted, I thought it was going to be December. We thought, Lerone Murphy, December. I guess UFC, and they were waiting for Jean Silva and Lopes. Then they were saying Lopes, and we're like, obviously we're like, we just fought that guy. Is there more deserving people, whatnot? But everybody knows that I'll fight anyone, right? So whoever they put in front of me, I'll do. But then it was looking like it wasn't going to happen. But then it did happen, which was great. Again, I thought, it was a Mobzar deserving, Lerone Murphy. I thought they were the 2 guys. They're the guys I called out. UFC really won Lopes. At least everyone knows they're in for a treat. With your Mobzars and Lerones, they're probably, they're more deserving. But are they going to bring a fight like Lopes would? I think the fans are going to appreciate the fight that me and Lopes are going to have.
Alexander Volkanovski's coach was also surprised that Diego Lopes got the fight, especially with Lerone Murphy and Movsar Evloev in the mix. He explained that they expected the matchup to go to either Movsar, Murphy, or the winner of Murphy versus Pico. After Murphy's impressive knockout, they were certain it would be him, but Diego's own standout KO shifted everything.
We thought it was going to be either Mosvald or Murphy, or the winner out of Murphy and what? Can't remember who Murphy
and Pico, Aaron Pico.
Yes. Yep. And so we had that sort of, it was going to be out of Murphy or Pico, maybe a Mosvald, but we didn't really have much hope on that. And then when Murphy had that spectacular KO, we said, yeah, it's Murphy, and all indications and everything, led to Murphy. Till Diego had his spectacular KO and everything changed.
Even 2 months ago, Diego Lopes himself shared that he believes Lerone Murphy should be fighting Volkanovski next for the title, as he has earned it after his strong performance in the last fight, though he also felt sympathy for Movsar.
Could I ask you, who do you think should fight Volk next for the belt?
I think Lerone Murphy. Lerone Murphy is making a great job in the last fight. I think he deserved the title shot. But I feel bad for Movsar, bro. I feel bad for Movsar because this guy is still undefeated in the UFC, but I don't know happy. I don't know for why this guy pulled out your last fight.
Meanwhile, Lerone Murphy also reacts to Diego Lopes getting the title shot against Volk instead of him by saying it is no longer about who's the best, but about who's the most popular. He admits that missing the chance to fight one of the featherweight division's greatest champions is what hurts him the most, and he feels that performance and merit are being overlooked in favor of popularity. Lerone Murphy said, "Missing the opportunity to fight one of the featherweight goats is what hurts me the most. It's not about who's the best anymore, it's about who's the most popular." Movsar Movsar Evloev, who's the top contender for the featherweight belt, responded to Lerone Murphy's tweet by inviting him to a fight. He challenged Murphy to step up and face him on the same card as the championship. Movsar Evloev said, moreover, Aljamain Sterling agrees with Lerone Murphy and says that even if he did not get the shot himself, it should have gone to Lerone or Movsar. He points out that Movsar was already passed over once for Lopes, and now Lopes gets another title opportunity, and while he gives Lopes credit, he says it is easy to see why fighters start to lose love for the sport because of how things play out. Aljamain Sterling said, I agree with Lerone. Even if I didn't get it, him or Movsar for sure should have been the guy. Movsar got passed over by Lopes once, and he gets another opportunity for gold lull. Fair play to Lopes, but you can see why guys start to lose love for the game. Cold world. Aljamain Sterling criticized the UFC matchmaking, calling it far from what it used to be. He admitted he's part of the company, but found the decisions extremely frustrating. He acknowledged their perspective, but questioned claims that they always give fans the fights they want or make the best matchups, saying this has become more common and hard to overlook, especially in his weight class. Aljamain Sterling said, it's 110% not what it used to be. I write for the company, but this shift is beyond frustrating. I get their POV, but stop saying we give the fans the fights that they want to see, and we make the best fights the best. It's way more frequent now and extremely hard to ignore, especially at your weight class. On the other hand, Luke Thomas strongly criticizes the UFC for the upcoming fight announcement and agrees that fans are not overreacting. He feels that decisions like this slowly weaken the product and make it lose value over time. In his view, the promotion is more focused on squeezing money out of the matchup instead of creating fights that truly show who the best fighter is.
Hero of TKO do. You are going to hollow out your product doing like this long enough. It's not just that you're not meeting expectations. You're just not. The fight business has always been one of manipulation. The fight business has always been one of the promoters massaging stuff to get what they want. It's a part and parcel of what they do. This is hardly some new practice, right? But it feels like there are moments in time where you can't really around with that. And that's kind of what we're getting here. We're getting a lot of that. We're getting fights that where there's obvious ways to go a different direction and they just don't go that direction, clearly because they've got some other aim in terms of how they want to generate revenue. They're just extracting wealth out of the bout rather than matchmaking for a real clear sense of who's the best.
Furthermore, Dane Thomas thinks Volkanovski faces a no-win situation against Diego Lopes. He explained that even if Volkanovski wins, it could seem unfair because he already defeated Lopes last year, while the other two contenders, Lerone Murphy and Movsar Evloev, might be seen as more deserving of the title shot. Dane Thomas said, I think Volk is in a no-win situation here. In a way, he's in a no-win situation because if he wins, it's like, hey, you just beat this guy last year and there are two other guys that deserved it more than he does. Dane Thomas believes Lerone Murphy deserves a title shot, saying he has done everything the UFC asked of him. However, he explained that Diego Lopes draws more attention and excitement, which makes him the choice for big events. Thomas noted that while Murphy has earned it on merit, promoting Lopes benefits the sport and helps generate more interest.
We both know I know who I think deserves the shot at the title. Lerone Murphy. Lerone Murphy, to me, deserves a shot at the title. He's done everything the UFC's asked him, but he doesn't scream entertainment. And Diego Lopes does. And it's just in terms of flipping a fight one week, another numbered event the next week, you got to go with the guy who's gonna sell. Like, I think it's important for Paramount to get off to a really good start if they're going to drive subscriptions and want more people to watch. And it's honestly better for the sport itself to have this fight as opposed to the meritocracy of having Lerone Murphy, because he deserves it. I think Lerone Murphy does deserve it, or Movsar. Like so it's not clear that Lerone does, or even Movsar, but Diego Lopes, man, He's an entertainer and people watch him.
Dane Thomas shared his thoughts on whether Volkanovski's upcoming fight could be his last. He suggested that if Volkanovski loses, it might mark the end of his career, noting that he's already a Hall of Famer. However, if he wins, Thomas believes Volkanovski would continue fighting the next challenger, whether it's Lerone Murphy or Movsar Evloev.
Do you think this will be Volkanovski's final fight? It's all there, 37 years old. He said his family wanted him to retire after the last one. He's been open about that. It's back in Sydney. He hasn't fought there in 3 years. I don't know. It feels like the stage is kind of set here.
I think if he loses, this might be it for him. You know, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. Come on, man. Like, it's
of course,
you know, so if he loses, this might be it for him. If he wins, there's no way he's going to continue to fight until he loses. If he wins this fight, he's going to fight the next challenger, whoever that may be, Lerone or Movsar. But if he loses, this is probably it for him.
Mike Heck also reacts to these card announcements, and he's fully aware that Dana and the UFC do not really care, but he believes they did not expect this kind of fan reaction after the main event announcements, especially the Volk versus Lopes rematch. Mike said he cannot remember seeing a matchup criticized this heavily. Mike Heck said, "I'm quite aware Dana and the UFC don't care at all, but I don't think they expected this reaction from the fan base after the main event announcements yesterday. I can't remember seeing a pair of fights ripped apart more than this, especially Volk Lopes too." MMA Guru expressed anger at the UFC's recent decisions, questioning their choices. He acknowledged that no option would have pleased everyone, but criticized the idea of picking someone like Murphy, saying people would still complain he hadn't beaten the right opponents. He pointed out that there are now many contenders deserving of a title shot, unlike in the past when options were limited.
What are they doing? What are they doing with this? Of all the decisions they could make, there's some that we wouldn't have been happy with. Listen, I understand that, like, no matter what, it wouldn't have been ideal. You pick Murphy to fight. Oh, he ain't beat no one. He's acting like he's Tony Ferguson of the division. There would have been these complaints. Like, oh, what? He fucking took Josh Emmett to a decision? Even though that's how Ilya got his belt. Different Josh Emmett, different circumstance. You have an abundance of people to give a title shot here. It's not just Ilya or nothing, you know?
MMA Guru emphasized thinking about Volkanovski's legacy, questioning why his career should end with 2 fights against Diego Lopes. He suggested fresh matchups would be better, pointing to undefeated fighters like Lerone Murphy or Movsar Evloev, who has wins over Lopes and Aljamain Sterling. He noted that while Evloev and Sterling's claims are stronger than Murphy's, neither should be overlooked in favor of Lopes. According to Guru, Aljamain Sterling could also have been a better option because he's a former bantamweight champion and has won a couple of fights since moving to featherweight.
You got to think about Volk's legacy. Why will it read 2 Lopes fights in a row at the end of his career? You got to think about fresh matchups for him here. Something new. An undefeated guy in Murphy. An undefeated Dagestani in Evloev that has a win over Lopes. That has a win over Aljo. Who would be another option here. And I think Evloev and Aljo's claims are a lot better than Murphy's, but still. Not Lopes. Not Lopes. Aljo's a former champ at bantamweight. Moved up. Yes, he lost to Evloev. Beat Brian Ortega. Beat Calvin Kattar in his featherweight debut. He was a guy on his way to being the bantamweight GOAT. Before he lost to O'Malley, moved up. He's gone 2-1 since then.
MMA Guru said he wants to see Volkanovski face a strong wrestler again to see how he handles it. He believes Volkanovski would beat Aljamain Sterling, but a fresh, undefeated opponent like Movsar Evloev would make an exciting challenge. He noted that Evloev is an undefeated Dagestani on the rise, and a matchup with him would be interesting for Volkanovski's final fight. Hosting the fight in Australia adds significance, giving Volkanovski a chance to win in front of his home crowd and further cement his legacy as one of the greatest featherweights of all time.
I want to see Volk versus a hard wrestler again. That's what I want to see. I want to see how he deals with it. I think he'd beat Aljo, but it'd be a fresh name, an interesting name. Same with Evloev. Undefeated. Yeah, undefeated Evloev. I think he might have a draw on his record or something like that. And some split decisions and interesting decisions, don't get me wrong. But an exciting Dagestani undefeated guy on the come up. Volk's answer to that would be interesting to see in the last fight of his career. This is in Australia. Maybe Volk won't retire here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll still see these matchups. But it's in Australia. And I don't know when this is going to align for Volk again. It might be a couple of years before the stars align to where Volk can defend his belt in Australia again. So this is like a golden opportunity for Volk to win a fight and then just go in front of the Australian crowd. Thanks very much. It was I'm the greatest featherweight of all time, and that would be cemented in my opinion.
On the other hand, Dan Hooker already predicted a rematch between Alex Volkanovski and Diego Lopes even before his last fight. He explained why other featherweights weren't getting the opportunity. He mentioned that some fighters like Murphy might seem less exciting outside the cage, even if skilled, and that others, like Movsar Evloev, simply don't draw enough interest. Hooker also praised Aljamain Sterling personally, but suggested that fan attention doesn't always match a fighter's talent or record.
And a lot of people will say, oh, there's some other guys out there. Murphy, I've been told he's too boring. Lots of love, but you know, maybe on the microphone, not as a fighter, but getting out there and selling fights and shooting and then doing that side of things. Some fighters just take a little bit more time if you don't want to say it with your chest. Muzan Ivalov or whatever, no one cares. No one cares. No one cares to see him fight. Aljamain Sterling, UFC hates you, my friend. I love you. I love you. Your rum is outstanding, but the big wigs, they hate you for some reason. Sorry, Cobb.
So, that's all we have from today's video, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Share your thoughts about the UFC 325 fight card in the comment section, and subscribe to our channel to get more updates about UFC.